There are 6 steps, and they're done by respective geographic regions. Since 2008, there are 5 regions. So the northern region is the combination of Aroostook, Piscataquis, Somerset County. The eastern region is the combination of Hancock, Penobscot, Washington County. Those are the 2 regions that I am going to focus the rest of my presentation on. If you look at the tree growth valuation that Maine Revenue Services puts out, you'll see that Franklin and Oxford have identical values. They issue the valuation by county, but we develop the valuation by the regions. So if you look, there's only 5 unique numbers on their valuation sheet. The 6 steps are, we first calculate the annual growth percent, and we do it by species groups. We look at where the acres are in the 3 tree growth tax law forest types of softwood, mixedwood, hardwood. We calculate the mean stocking. We do it at a cubic foot per acre basis. We do this by the same species groups within each of the 3 types. Mean productivity is just cubic feet per acre per year. It's growth. Average stumpage value per cubic foot. Step 5, for the most part, uses the Maine Forest Service annual stumpage report. And then step 6 is sort of the last thing. The Maine Forest Service puts out a valuation and delivers that to the Maine Revenue Services for their use. So, growth percent, step 1. The 6 softwood species groups are balsam fir, all spruces, red, white, and black. Pine species, meaning just white and red. Northern white cedar, hemlock, and then all other miscellaneous commercial softwood species. Large, some of your weird pines like jack and pitch go into that group. There are 9 hardwood species groups. Red maple, sugar maple, yellow birch, white birch, beech, the 3 ashes, the 4 aspen species, northern red oak, and then all other commercial hardwoods. So we're not doing growth on moosewood. We're not doing growth on gray birch. So there's a bunch of non-commercial tree species out there that we just put aside. Growth percent is a long-term average. Currently, it is the average growth from 1958 to 2013. So it's the average growth divided by the average inventory gives me a percentage rate. So as we have stepped through time, that growth percent has been coming down because it's a much longer period. It's almost, we're out to where we have a growth percent that represents 60 years, a rotation. One of the things I have asked myself is at some point I ought to be throwing away the oldest growth. The oldest growth is 1958 to 1972, when the forests were growing at an exponential rate as I recovered from the 1920s budworm epidemic. So I've had the discussion about whether to throw growth out, when and how to eliminate one of those growth periods, and I haven't really got a strong consensus from some of the people I talked to about that. The growth percent comes directly from Maine's FIA data. The inventory comes direct from Maine's FIA data. So as that data has changed a number of different ways across time, it has had an influence on this calculation. In addition, across time, we've changed the areas of interest. Back in '72, it was a strict county level basis except for the capital area in Casco Bay. Species of interest. For the period of 1995 to 2008, for instance, red oak was lumped in with all other commercial hardwood. In the period of 1982 to 1995, red maple was not considered a commercial species and was not in the growth percent. And then finally, product quality. Back in 72 and 82 and 95, all they used was growing stock trees. Trees that had the potential, either are or had the potential to be sawtimber. When I redid it in 2008, I used all live trees. So I'm calculating growth on all live trees that are 5 inches and larger. The recalculation that I did back in November 2015 was identical to the process that I used in 2008. So the math hasn't changed compared to some of the previous calculations. So if you look at the northern megaregion, for softwood species, continuing decline in the growth percent, we had a slight bump up with the 2015 recalculation. For all hardwood species, a big bump up in the last calculation. For the eastern region, softwood similar, decline and then a bump up with the last calculation. Hardwood species, pretty steady with a bump up in the last calculation. If I just look at growth percent, the bump up in softwood, the bump up in hardwood is going to increase the valuation. So if everything else didn't change one single bit, you would see your valuation go up just because growth has improved with that recalculation. Tree growth forest types. Softwood, 75% or more basal area in softwood species. Hardwood, 75% or more in hardwood species. Mixed wood is a big catch-all. You're somewhere between less than 75% softwood, less than 75% hardwood. So mixed wood is a big basket. Historically, and this is the question I've been getting quite regularly since a year ago, is why is mixed wood the highest value now? Well, I hope over the course of the remaining steps to add some clarity to that. Historically, over the entire period from 72 to 07, the softwood forest type had the highest valuation. Mixed wood was next, and then hardwood. To a lot of people, mixed wood should be the lowest because it's neither softwood or hardwood. And so now that mixed wood is the highest, has to do with a bunch of combinations of the different steps. In the since 2008, mixed wood has seemed to become the sweet spot, and because of that sweet spot, it has the highest valuation. I don't do much with forest types other than look at changes. Forest type has nothing to do with the calculation. It's just an assignment of acres to the three. So for the northern megaregion, softwood is up top, mixed wood, hardwood. Since 1995, softwood has increased from 2.7 million to 3.2 million. Mixed wood has gone down from 3.4 to 3.1. Hardwood has gone down from 2.4 to 2.1. So in the northern region, I would characterize this as Hardwood acres move the mixedwood acres move the softwood. If I had to make a prediction on how that movement played out on the landscape, that would be what I would say. If we go to the eastern megaregion, again, softwood is coming back from 1.6 to almost 1.8. Mixedwood is increasing a little bit, basically 1.7.5 to 1.8. Hardwood had a 16% decrease from 0.9 to 0.7. So again, sort of a similar movement to what we saw in the north. Just as an aside, southern Maine has a different movement than what we just saw for northern and eastern. Southern Maine, softwood moved the mixedwood, hardwood moved the mixedwood. Third step, mean stocking, cubic feet per acre. And again, on an accounting basis, this is my principle. So we look at the average merchant volume in inventory within each forest type. The calculation of net merchant volume was identical for both times. So if we look at the northern megaregion, we see hardwood, the stocking in the hardwood forest type has this pattern. It peaked in 1998 at over 1,500. It is now down to under 1,200. Mixedwood pretty steady across the entire period, up a little bit from 2008. Softwood continues to go down. The average volume per acre in the softwood forest type in the northern megaregion continues to decline. That of and by itself, if nothing else changed, that would decrease the valuation. Because my principal keeps going down, my interest rate times that principal means I earn less over the period. If we look at the eastern megaregion, hardwood, again, similar, peak in 95, with some minor drops since then. Mixedwood, a big drop back here in 84, but then steady increases. Mixedwood is now at 1,360 cubic feet per acre. Softwood, a drop, and then an increase back to 08, a minor decrease since 08. So again, mixedwood, that of and by itself, that increase of 120 cubic feet per acre is going to drive the valuation up in the eastern megaregion in the mixedwood type, of and by itself. Step 4 is just basic math. I take my growth percent, multiply it by my mean stocking, and get cubic feet per acre per year. And then we sum it to represent all softwood species and represent all hardwood species within the forest type. And think of this as growth per acre per year. Northern megaregion, hardwood forest type, again, we peaked in 98 at just under 38 cubic feet per acre per year. We've increased 2 cubic feet with the last recalculation. Mixedwood, steady decline, a bump up of about 4 cubic feet with the last calculation. Softwood, still declining in terms of growth. So we lost 2.5 cubic feet per acre since in the last calculation. And if my growth per acre per year is going down, that of and by itself is going to drive my valuation down. If it goes up, like it did here in mixedwood, the valuation would go up. In the eastern region, we see hardwood steady, or an increase in 84, then declines. In 2015, we're up 1.5 cubic feet. Mixedwood, steady declines, a big bump up with the last calculation of 7 cubic feet per acre per year. Softwood, again, declined down to '08, a bump up of 3 cubic feet with the last calculation. Step 5 is where we bring in the stumpage sale data. We're now going to go from talking about growth and cords and cubic feet to talking about dollars of productivity per year. So there's 3 parts. One changes every year. The other 2 only change when I do a complete recalculation of all the steps. So part A is the annual Maine Forest Service stumpage price report. That data goes into the tree growth calculation, and it is a volume weighted stumpage price. Part B is just a data table where we just display the species level inventory estimates, and everything is on a cubic foot basis. So FIA allows saw logs to be estimated as cubic feet. So we do it that so that we can add everything up and get total volume on a single basis. Part C is also a periodic calculation. And what we do in Part C is something that we would call product weights. There are 4 weights. There's a softwood pulpwood weight. There's a softwood sawtimber weight. Both of those add up to 1. So what we're looking at is the proportion of pulpwood and sawtimber within a given species. Hardwood pulpwood, hardwood sawtimber are the other 2 product weights, and the 2 hardwood weights also add up to 1. So it's just a proportion process to look at where the value is in inventory. We do this so that we can apply the respective stumpage prices to the correct product we have in inventory. So here's softwood pulpwood, the average softwood price across the last 9 years. The blue is the northern megaregion, the red is the eastern megaregion. Stumpage prices are volatile. They go up and down every year, depending on where you are and what species are in favor. So here's softwood sawtimber. Big jumps in the northern megaregion the last 2 years in the value of softwood sawtimber. Not as big a response in the eastern megaregion. Hardwood pulpwood. Big jumps in the last 2 years in the northern megaregion for hardwood pulpwood. Not quite as reactive in the eastern megaregion. Hardwood sawtimber. Northern megaregion. Up, up, up. Hardwood sawtimber is becoming more valuable. So if we do it on a cubic foot basis, we multiply the softwood stumpage prices times the softwood inventory and divide it by the total volume, we get an average value per cubic foot. Northern Maine, steady decrease, and then 2014 was my new calculation year, and we see an increase in the 2015. For the eastern region, pretty much, it hasn't varied by 2 cents per cubic foot, anywhere from 25 to 27. So the average value per cubic foot is a lot less sensitive because my inventory, underlying inventory doesn't change as much year to year when I multiply it by the respective stumpage prices. Saw timber, more volatile. You see the impact of the increase in stumpage price here. Again, increase in the softwood stumpage price. Hardwood. Demand for hardwood pulpwood in the north. Less volatile in the east. Hardwood saw timber, again, if I flip back, you could see the increase in the stumpage price is driving the value of the dollars per cubic foot. The end result is another math step, and it's just a bunch of chain calculations where we take the average annual net productivity, we multiply it by the stumpage price, and what we end up, instead of growth in cubic feet per acre per year, we get a monetary return in dollars per acre per year. So we take that dollars per acre per year. That is the interest that acre of land has produced. We discount that 10%. That 10% discount is set by statute, and it's provided to reflect inaccessible wood or inoperable stands. After the discounting, we then capitalize that number by 8.5%. And again, that capitalization rate is set by statute. What we're trying to answer is what valuation per acre is required to give us an 8.5% return, and that return is 90% of the average annual productivity in terms of dollars per acre. These values are what the Maine Forest Service provides to the Maine Revenue Service. So we see northern Maine for hardwood, 08 is a recalculation year, and 014 is a recalculation year. I completely redid the entire process. New growth data, new stocking data. Whereas for the years between 09 and 13, the only thing that changed for those years is stumpage price. So we see in the northern region, pretty flat, a bump up here in 2012, and then steady increases, and then when I did my recalculation, a big bump up of almost $50 per acre for for hardwood. The eastern region, not as big a jump when I did the recalculation. It only went up about $7 an acre. But a bigger jump in the last year than we see in the north. Mixed wood acres. So this is a recalculation year, so we see a big jump here. And then we see how the impact of stumpage prices changed the valuation. Here in 014 is my new basis or recalculation year. Again, over a $50 increase in the valuation. And then not much change with the 2015 calculation. Eastern, this is a recalculated year, a bump up of $15, a recalculated year, up $40 in mixedwood. Softwood, depending on where you are, different impacts. So the northern region, for the last 4 years, even though this is a recalculation year, not much change. A bigger change back here in 08 when I did the calculation. That was a $20 per acre increase back in 08. Eastern, so recalculation, stumpage prices drive this increase, stumpage prices drive that decrease. This is a recalculation and a bump up of $30 per acre. So every time we do the recalculation from step one all the way through, we have a major impact on the valuation. If you look across the regions, Some of the forest types go up, some of the forest types actually go down in that recalculation process. So the calculation of tree growth is a multi-step. And people keep asking me, well, which one drives the calculation? Which one has the most impact? They're too complicated to say, oh yeah, it's the growth percent that does it, or it's the stocking per acre, or it's stumpage prices. Some of them are compensating. We can see growth percent go up, but stocking go down. So it's hard. And it's even harder because we are aggregating counties. We have the northern mega region represents half the state of Maine. So there's a lot going on in there that you can never really know with fine enough detail or enough confidence to say, yeah, this is the reason the valuation went up or down.